Hello, sinners, saints, brothers, and sisters. I am so glad that you're here for another episode where we will inevitably explore our joy, shake our fists, and try to find our way in the midst of this chaotic world. Sinner, Saint, Sister really hopes to remind people that you are never, ever alone. So if you like today's episode, please share it with a friend. Maybe share it with your Bible study. Leave a review and like and subscribe. Look for extras on YouTube at youtube.com/Allison Sullivan. I hope you hear something that lets you know you are loved and helps you love one another. Welcome to Sinner, Saint, Sister. I read somewhere that everything is more dangerous at a high speed. And isn't it so? I mean, falling off a bike while creeping, it's kind of funny. But while at a high speed, in a race, it can be potentially tragic. Seeing a deer while meandering or just off your porch, that's enchanting. But while traveling down the highway at 70 miles per hour, it could be catastrophic. During this slow pace that I've been practicing, I've realized that I've been living my life in a terrible hurry to do good because it does feel a little urgent after all. But without rest, hectic helping, well, it can start to feel a little more like nothing more than just a bunch of noise. A passionate rush to be effective, it can cause harm if there isn't any rest in it. Rest. It's an incubator for understanding, and without it, we could miss the sacred and the subtle. Jesus was tempted in the desert, and he was tempted with good things. And this makes sense because if the devil showed up in red and holding a pitchfork, it wouldn't have been a real temptation, just some cartoon of it. But we are told that Jesus really was tempted. An enemy, he put good things before him, and he said essentially, there's a faster way to get what you want. Here. But that way, that logical way, that worldly way, it abandons the slow, true, beautiful work of the cross. It's really easy to fix our eyes on the things of this world. I might see influence or affirmation or productivity as good temptations. Those things, they might not be altogether bad, but is the heart behind them? Maybe. So often my tendencies or my desires, it can trick me into thinking that there is a faster way to holiness than just taking up my cross and trusting and resting in the slow work of God. Rest and solitude, silence and reflection, healing and acceptance. My friend, Niequist, he knows better than most the value of supportive community, telling the truth, and making space for a Holy Spirit to move freely in our midst. In this episode, he outlines his desire to minister to the weary with his retreat, pastors, priests, and guides. In the midst of turmoil, the greatest gift in Christ, it's the ability to imagine another future, another season, a time that might be more positive or peaceful than the one we find ourselves in now. Aaron, he's a pointer in my life, and he's on a mission to bring about a new beginning through accompaniment, comfort, community, redemption, restoration, worship, and freedom. Pastors, priests, and guides is likely coming to a city nearish you. But I promise, even if this retreat isn't anywhere on your radar yet, you will love this conversation about a slower pace and the power of looking in a world that's always pointing out. Pink Salt Riot creates products that are created to be reminders to show up authentically as we are and live into the mission that God has exactly for us. Pink Salt Riot creates jewelry and greeting cards and lifestyle goods and gifts that anyone who loves Jesus would love. All of these products are made with the hope of pointing us back to radically standing in the truth about what God says about us and that we are worthy exactly as we are. We can anchor our daily lives to God's love and faithfulness. And you guys, Christmas is just around the corner. I know that there is something perfect for someone you care about at Pink Salt Riot. Follow them on Instagram and TikTok or pinksaltriot.com. Hello, Aaron. Welcome back to the show. I loved our first conversation so much, and I heard from so many other disoriented people who also felt so accompanied by it. I'm so grateful that you've agreed to come back. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I've had that experience so many times where you have it. even a moment where you're like, so I'm not alone, right?
Yes,
I'm not
exactly.
crazy in this.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so the fact that our conversation could create a little space for others who are not alone and not crazy,
Yes.
that means a lot to me.
I am so grateful, Aaron, for the way that you walk through life. It's like you have all this room to make observations and feel your feelings and gather information and pray and
Hmm.
learn from silence and even learn from noise.
Mm-hmm.
And then like live your life deeply enough to problem solve for one, but then use your creativity and your callings to make sense of all the suffering and
Mm.
then reach out. And so,
Oh
and
yeah,
bring other people along
sure.
with what you've learned. And if our first conversation was kind of a part one, I don't think we knew that at the time.
Okay, right,
But
right.
I feel like this conversation is a part two. And I love both because I feel like these conversations are just two sides,
Mm.
like opposite sides of something very, very precious.
Yeah.
Our first conversation was about, just times of crisis or when it feels like everything's falling apart, what remains,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
was about honesty. And then this next conversation, I think, is going to be the answer to all of that,
Mm-hmm.
the antidote to all of that. And you gave plenty of good answers in the first episode too, but I feel like in this one, you are all caps, like doing it. So two things. How the heck have
Yeah.
you been, Aaron? How's your heart?
Oh
And
man,
then
yeah.
also, and then what is pastor, priests, and guides?
Yeah. Well, maybe the only thing that I would nuance in what you're saying is I don't know if we're going to give answers today
Okay.
as much as create space for the answers to emerge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good distinction. Yeah.
So I don't think that answers don't exist. So I'm not like, oh, nothing matters, whatever. But I'm also wary of saying I'm about to dispense them.
Yeah, right.
But what I believe more than anything is when we can create the right kinds of spaces, like even like when you were talking about our last conversation, I felt like that space
Yeah.
opened up some things that were really meaningful. And so so I want to talk a lot about a couple of these spaces that I think that I've experienced as, I mean, life changing is such a cliche, right? Until it actually
And
happens.
yet, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. So some of those life changing things. So yeah, I mean, you asked how I'm doing. Probably like everyone, moments of great joy and moments of sorrow and
Yeah.
and I mean, the world is so weird right now.
Consolation and desolation 10 times a day.
Yes.
It's fine.
That's right. Hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, you know. And maybe, it's everything's heightened right now, but maybe that's how it's always been, right?
I have wondered that exact thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like life was always pretty much good and now it's crazy. I think it's always been ebbing and flowing because that's like what it means to be human.
Yeah.
But
And
now
I do
it's
feel
just
especially
everything's on
sensitive.
hyperdrive.
So it's like, am I just more aware,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. So yeah, so things are good. I was just telling my wife yesterday, I've been running a little too fast, too hard, like too many things, trying to juggle too many things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that always manifests to me is like feeling sad.
Mm-hmm.
So like a couple days ago, I was like, man, I'm really feeling down. What's going on? Like, no, that's great. And that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just exhausted. That's what's going on, and I've had seasons where I was depressed and had to really engage that.
Yeah.
But this was not that.
Yeah.
This was just exhausted. Aaron, you need to take a nap. That's what you need. So
yes.
Anyway, so this weekend, actually, especially before traveling next week, just doing some exhales.
Good.
And Sean and I are going to go out on a date and just like wander the city and have a great meal and just be together. And
good.
So, yeah,
awesome.
Trying to.
So I love that you are pretty deliberate in the wording of what you have created, which is a retreat and not a conference.
It's not a conference.
It is not a conference. It is a retreat.
Yep.
We are not dispelling a bunch of information, and
That's right.
which I feel like is a version of what you just said a second ago. Can you tell us about what you have created and what you're hoping?
It's called Pastors, Priests, and Guides, and it's a 2.5-day retreat for clergy. And what we're saying is anyone who has not given up on this broken but beautiful church.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
if everything's working for you, if you're just like crushing it and taking the next hill, God bless you. You may not need to come and be a part of our retreat, but if you are, if you can see that the American church is burning to the ground, and we can't like save the container, but you haven't given up on the way of Jesus.
Yeah.
And you need a community that wants to wrestle with that with you.
Yeah.
Oh my, join us.
Yeah.
And that's why we started it. I mean, right now I've been in like full-time church work for over 20 years, and I've never seen a season where more of my priest and pastor friends are exhausted, are disillusioned, are either actively quitting or thinking about it. And again, the goal isn't keep everybody in the church, but the goal is to like something. Yeah. I keep using the analogy. Something is burning down.
Yeah.
And I don't want to save the container, but I want to, let's create some life rafts for all of us, for the people.
I love the idea of, looking at who might be leading other people.
Yeah.
Who might see themselves as a guide.
Yeah.
Which really, when you get right down to it, we're all caring for others. We all are.
Absolutely. We all play that role. Yeah.
In that definition, I mean, everyone's a leader, and so I love how expansive you've made it. I would like to talk a minute, if you don't mind, about the responsibility of a good, worthy leader, because I've been deeply affected by the last several years, and I feel like it is completely impossible to move forward in redemption or in restoration if I, as a guide or as someone who cares for others, if I am not doing the work that I need to do, because I am still stuck saying, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Or why am I so sensitive? It feels like I have this, let's put it this way. I wasted a lot of time thinking that I have morally failed somehow by being so upset, by having such an intense grief response.
Yes.
So in a way, it's kind of like first things first, let's just lean in to the things that we're feeling, because we know that there's no way through but through.
That's right.
And so as leaders, people who go first to say, I'm going to fix this thing inside of me so that I can bring, and there's always people that are further ahead on the path than you. I mean,
of course. Yeah.
Where you are versus, where I am. And so there are people that I've looked to, you and Sarah Bessie and your dear wife. And, there are these voices that guide us, that hold this little lantern and, light the way. But I have that responsibility too. So then I have work to do.
That's it. That's absolutely right. Yep. Well, a couple things. First, I have to close my window. We're right on 21st Street, and it is relentlessly loud.
Life in the big city. You've got street noise. I've got trains. We're good.
That's right. So I resonate so much with what you just said. And, the first image that comes up is been said a million times, but it's really resonant, on airplanes. If the oxygen masks come down, the message is put your own mask on first before you try to help your kids and the people around you. And there is deep human wisdom there. I know very often, sometimes it's for good reasons. I want to help the people around me first. Other times it's, I don't want to deal with my need. And it's easier to pour my energy into the people around. So I think there's good reasons and there's exporting reasons.
Yeah. An act of avoidance.
Yeah. But
I'm sorry, I didn't really ask you a question.
No,
I just kind of like, I just
resonated
on
with
you.
it. But yeah.
I guess, like, what are you hoping to heal? Like, what can you name? Have you put a lot of thought into, and I know everybody's experiences are different, but I do think collectively we're having a lot of shared experiences.
Yeah.
What specifically are you hoping to heal? What have you seen?
Yeah.
You mentioned burnout for sure.
I think there's a dual thing. There's exhaustion. I mean, trying to lead a church or a community through the COVID years when you couldn't even be together. Has been just truly exhausting for so many. But there's also the disillusionment. And some of it is the division. My pastor and priest friends just say, everything I say, every decision I make, 50% of my community says, you didn't go far enough. And the other 50% said, why are you being so divisive?
Sure.
Everything. And so they're like, how do I lead? How do I pastor? Everything is us and them. And so there's that. And then honestly, when you look at the role that American Christians are playing in the wider conversation in our country, it's just really disillusioning.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but my son, when he was in 8th grade, some of his friends heard that his family were Christians, and they were like, really? And one of the girls said, so you don't believe in science? He's like, of course I believe in science. And then they talked about something else. But like, what this thing has become in the cultural conversation is so confusing. And so there's an exhaustion and a disillusionment. What am I hoping to heal? Again, I'm not hoping to heal anything. I don't have that power. But what I can do and what our team can do is convene a space and a set of guides that just help us hold the space. I mean, it's what a great therapist is for. The therapist isn't giving all the answers often, and especially what a great spiritual director is doing. Spiritual director isn't the boss. She or he is simply sitting with us and listening to God's Spirit together.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful.
What are you noticing?
Thank you so much. Gosh, it's interesting to me, talk therapy is not my favorite thing in the world. And I don't want to like pretend that I've made this, some really healthy rhythm in my life, because I haven't. I go on emergency basis.
Of course.
And then, anyways, but I was having this experience where I was depressed. I mean, clinically, I was depressed, and I was dealing with a lot of shame and blame in the midst of all of that. And so, as I'm talking to this therapist, I felt so like I felt like such a burden. Like, I am wasting your time. I am boring you. Here I am, so sad, and I have a pool in my backyard, and you must be so bored with me, And she said, honey, the only thing that bores me is people that aren't telling the truth. Go on.
Wow.
And so it was so, I have chills thinking about how kind she was in that moment, just how seen I felt. And at the very end, and so she just let me go on, and I went on and on and on. And then at the very end, she said, well, it seems to me like you've been very depressed. Wow. And it was like, why was that revolutionary? I don't know, but it was like, there is power in naming things. Yes. And so they're like getting together with other people who are struggling, naming the thing, even if there are subtle differences here and there. Yeah. Just the idea of that. I feel healed already, Aaron. Don't worry, I'm still coming. But, but honestly.
To name it, let me tell you, the second thing we're going to do at the retreat, but it's to this exact point. It's to name reality and to have your reality be heard. Both of those are so powerful. But at the very beginning of the retreat, we're going to do a short opening liturgy, just a time of prayer and, exhale and slowing down. And then the first practice we're going to do is one of my favorite practices that we just called How Are You Arriving? And we literally pass the mic around. In New York, we had about 75 of us at this retreat. And so we literally just put the mic on one side of the room, and you got to say, hi, my name is, and I am arriving, 3 words. Not 3 sentences. It wasn't story time. It was just, and I'm arriving exhausted.
I love that you gave me 3. I'm like,
yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's great.
And you just say it into the room and then you pass your mic. And I'm telling you, like 3 minutes in, we're like, oh, this is a safe place for me.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying that you're depressed, if you're saying that you're hopeful, if you're saying that, then my 3 words and my 100 words are also welcome here.
Gosh.
And
it
so,
feels, you describing that, it feels so beautiful just to, this sounds melodramatic and I'm sorry, but like just to enjoy people again. Like,
yes.
like to
it's
remember,
so yep.
Scripture's always telling us to remember, to remember that I like you. I love humanity.
Right. That's right.
As opposed to what I'm seeing in my algorithm or,
that's right. Yeah.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Karen Joy Hardwick. She has done a lot of work around, her book is called The Connected Leader.
Yeah.
And I love it so much because it's basically, her idea is that if you have not done interior work, then and you're leading people, then you are likely walking around with a lot of unexamined insecurities, which makes you very easily triggered and which makes you have like these really awful, ugly defense mechanisms, right?
It's so true. Yes.
She is arguing out of this ego-driven hustle of what we used to value in leaders and into someone who is living this fully human, open, vulnerable, honest experience who has done a lot of interior work.
Yes.
And I can see how that could get a lot of criticism. I'm just picturing some people in my life that would say, well, that sounds like a lot of navel gazing to me. You know, it might sound like really woohoo to, I don't know, just dive into your own life. But what we're doing isn't working. So all of these people with a lot of confidence and a little charisma, and the power suit and the checklists and the models. I mean, let's give something else a try, shall we?
Listen, I was just about to say that. Well, small comment, and then I want to talk exactly about that. The first pre-engagement counseling Shauna and I went to. Mm-hmm. The first thing that the person said was, a healthy marriage is basically 2 healthy people. Mm-hmm. And there's the third entity too, the marriage, but primarily. Bring the most healthy version. And I wonder if the healthiest pastor is the healthiest human who is trying to serve, the healthiest professor, the healthiest parent. I mean, as a parent, said. Right?
Yeah.
So there is that whole side. And then what you just said of the other way just isn't working. I mean, if the swagger, certainty, confidence, if that thing was going to make our world better, our world would be great, because that's the only kind of leaders that have been in charge of this planet. Yeah. Yes. One of my friends, Cheryl Bridges John, she's a theologian and a feminist theologian. She's a charismatic. She's wonderful. She's brilliant. She made a comment not too long ago. She said, I really think the leaders of the future are going to be consensus builders, are going to be humble, are going to be team oriented. Yes. She listed 5 or 6 traits, and she said, in other words, women.
Yes.
And that just resonated.
Interpersonally intelligent.
Deeply. Yes.
Yes. A problem solver. Yes.
Yes. The dude energy about I'm gonna conquer this next hill. I'm gonna, put it on my shoulder. It just has not served our world well. And no one can deny that, right? No one looks around and says, our country's being run pretty
awesome.
Well. And so what I don't mean, obviously, is only women should lead. But I think we need to flip from they primarily men. I mean, if you still look at Congress and still look at most CEOs, I think we need to flip that. But for those of us who are men, to say, well, I'm a man. That's great. I hope that's welcome. I want to embrace the fullness of what it means to be human, which is masculine and feminine, which is moments of like, I want to be a whole person, not just a cartoon of one thing that I was told to be.
Well, and we're going to use our gifts somewhere. Wouldn't you rather us make the church?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't you rather?
Oh, yes. Yes. It's so true. Yeah.
So I was just in a moment of conviction. I was noticing and complaining and shaking my fist at all these leaders who, instead of, looking inward and doing their own work, they were just trying to blame everything on these outward things. Yeah. And then I had this moment of, that's me too. Like, I'm looking out and I'm blaming you and I'm blaming you and I'm blaming you. And it's like, okay, well, if this is my complaint that person needs to go do some inner work, I better get to work. I need to do some inner work too.
That's right. That's right.
Aaron, my very, very, very favorite thing about you. We talked about this last time, but I was raised in Protestant spaces. I became a Christian through Young Life in high school. Yeah. And then very inconveniently met a cute Catholic boy and had to I didn't have to do anything, but I did some reading and I told him I will make this decision if it brings me closer to God and not you. And I was really captivated by Catholic social teaching in the Eucharist. So,
absolutely.
So here we are. But unity has become very important to me, and blurring lines between denominations has become very important to me. Now, initially, that was probably selfish, but I do think that it is the heartbeat of God. I just wanted to be more comfortable with, all my friends in the same space. But this is so important to the Lord. In fact, Jesus went so far as to call it a new commandment, to love one another. And you live this out so well, Aaron. You surround yourself with such a diversity of gifts and charisms and callings. And I am so grateful for how expansive your approach to God is. You get so many different views from so many different angles, and it completely affects how you bring people along. So can we talk about how welcome any and all denominations are in this space?
Oh, yeah. And I would say not even welcome, not even like we're going to do our narrow thing and anyone is welcome to come learn from us. It's way more, we need you. Like, if you're not there, we miss out on that part of the kingdom.
Goodness gracious, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have felt tolerated in a lot of places. I'm tolerated. I'm not necessarily celebrated.
That's right.
And that is a really, really big difference. Thank you so much. Gosh.
So there's a couple steps. The first step, so many of us are raised in our little pond. Yeah. We're the only ones who got it all the way right. Right. And everybody else is wrong. So try to stay away from other people, or they will kind of soil our perfection. Okay. Yeah. The next level is what you were just talking about, where, we're right, but we'll be around others, so hopefully we can rub off on them.
This is so honest. That's so good.
But I mean, I think what's happened to me in the last 10 years, and maybe this is just when you realize your own story isn't nearly enough. It just doesn't actually sustain a whole life. And that's where I got my faith tradition. I just realized it cannot sustain a whole robust spiritual life. Not when you add pain, because it had nothing to do with that. Not when you add, so all these different things. But I also didn't say, and so it's all lies. Yeah. I was like, my tradition, there's some real beauty here. Yeah. But it's just one little sliver. So that kind of pushed me out. Well, what are some other slivers? What are other people saying? And I started to learn. I was just telling a friend the other day, the first book by a Catholic I read was in 2003. Someone gave me Richard Rohr's Everything Belongs. It was a game changer in a way I still can't totally articulate. But I mean, a Catholic, where I grew up, Catholics weren't even going to be in heaven,
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
But that's what I was told. And so suddenly I find, so anyways, all that to say, at these retreats, not only are we inviting anyone from any Christian tradition, and I really mean anyone.
Yeah.
But we're also putting together teams of retreat guides that are coming from every tradition.
Yes.
And so, I mean, like, I know you're going to be in Houston, May. That's a different one. My brain's
January
23rd through 25th. And the opening session is going to be taught by Father Ron Rolheiser, which I can't even believe. The short story, I don't know if I'll tell this at the retreat.
Okay.
The short story is I reached out to him and said, I know you live in San Antonio. It's quite a drive. We're in Houston. And he goes, I literally have 2 appointments in Houston the day before and the day after. I'm going to be sitting in a hotel in Houston with nothing to do that night.
Oh my gosh.
Put me in.
I love God so much.
Yes.
Some people don't believe in God. I mean, come on.
On a very serious level, I had the same feeling. I don't tend to be super like magical, like everything. And I remember I sent the email and I just thought, oh my goodness, this is grace. This is grace. Because he's going to be talking about the chapter of a book that was the most meaningful chapter of my whole life. Like, I don't know, you've probably have books that were really meaningful. I do too. But this is not just a book, but a single chapter. And that's going to be his lecture on the Paschal Mystery. So all that to say, we get to learn from a brilliant Catholic theologian, writer, priest. And then we have a number of others like myself that will be like, all right, how do we flesh that out a little bit from the wisdom of our own tradition?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I'm so excited for us. I'm so excited for you. As far as those concentric circles go, and then and the widening. I really love how honest you were about that, because it's totally true. But I was thinking something really changed for me. It was just a moment, but it generalized and it really affected my whole life and how I saw, I guess the way to say it is inclusion of other people's ideas and beliefs, but it was this, or maybe it's I don't know. What happened is that I was in this really awkward, small circled group of women who felt a little bit desperate to get out of the house when they had toddlers. Okay. And so there was like literally 5 of us, and our group was led by a nun who was a little on the stoic side. Okay. And she had us put our hands like on our neighbor's knee. And then she had us, I'm not kidding, breathe together. Okay. Now, there were only 5 of us. Right. And it was 9 a.m. and we don't know anything about each other. And we are like inhaling and exhaling. It was so, her artlessness about the way that she had us do this was so comical. But there was something, Aaron, about everything being taken down to its most elemental function of just breathing air together that I was like, these are my people. Yep. Like, and there was something about, we're all just children here. Like we are all so, for lack of a better word, speaking of artless, dumb. Like we're all so clueless. And there was something about realizing that his love for you might feel really, really right. And that's fine. You might be. Yeah. But there's something about your rightness. What's more valuable than being right? Like God's love for us is so huge that everything just needs to stay in proper proportion. That's all. Yeah. So it's like, this is so small compared to God's great love. Like me being certain about this thing is so small compared to breathing air with these women, And so I don't know, that was just a really humbling experience for me. Yes. And it feels like a microcosm of what's about to happen at Pastors, Priests, and Guides. I mean, yeah.
And what I love about that, what a great story. What I love about that is she said, hey, God's love is bigger than you're being right. You're all connected. Believe that that's true.
Wow.
She would have been technically right. She would have said all
Wow.
the things,
Excellent point.
but instead she just created space and taught you a
Totally.
practice.
Oh gosh.
And
Oh, that's
so,
awesome. Thank you for saying that.
And so, I mean,
So cool.
yeah. And so that is at the heart. I mean, you brought it up right at the beginning. This is not a conference. This is, if we invited her, we wouldn't say give a 10-minute lecture on connectedness. We would say teach us a practice.
Yeah.
And so,
awesome.
yeah. That's
so
beautiful.
our culture and our culture's chaotic pace, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for rest or reflection or restoration. And a lot of times it's really only in retreat that we can even realize what we're up against.
Yeah.
You know, it's only in being
right.
still and silent that we can say, oh, okay, I'm over this thing. Okay, I'm doing pretty good here. Or, oh, I'm under this thing. I'm not doing so hot here. Or, you know what? I have more options than just fight or flight. You know, like there are a wider range of experiences that I can coach myself into.
That's right. That's right.
And so, you know, I know that you're so good at appreciating silence, or at least you've made it a practice. You've made it a discipline, even if you don't feel good at it.
No, I'm not good, but it's critical. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the advantages of a slower pace?
Oh, I mean, you start to bump into reality. I think
that's really good.
living in fantasy can really only be sustained. I don't know if I think that. One of the greatest ways to sustain fantasy is to stay so busy you never notice how fake it looks or feels. Yeah, and that's good. We've all done it. We've probably all did it this week at some point where we had an inkling of something that wanted to emerge or wanted to speak to us. And I was like, well, instead I have 6 emails that I hadn't finished. I'll just do the 6 emails, you know?
Right.
So
or we scroll, you know, it's
or
like
we scroll. Oh, it's so true.
Scrolling is my
midterm
spiritual director.
And, yeah, that's right. Scrolling is my spiritual director.
There's really smart people there. It's fine. I'm getting therapy. Look.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, please do someday. Please do an episode on scrolling as my spiritual director. That's awesome.
Well, and Instagram is community, and money is success.
No, I know.
mean, all the things. It's like this is my autopilot.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the way that I get programmed to doing life.
Yep.
And when you think about what autopilot actually is that something kind of has to break in order for you to go, okay, wait.
No, that's exactly right.
What's going on?
Yeah. And so to answer your question, I feel like silence makes space for reality to emerge.
Yeah.
And of course, we who are connected to the big story of Jesus, and I would argue almost everyone has some sort of like sense that that's God, or that's the creator. That's the one who holds this all together.
Yeah.
I had a friend who used to say reality with a capital R. That's God. God is the ultimate reality. And so space allows our personal reality to start to emerge, the truth, and then the capital reality, capital T truth, to begin to speak. And I think it's so, which I think for us at the retreat, silence is so difficult and it's so powerful that we are really careful inviting people into silence. Okay. You know, that first night, we don't say, all right, here's an hour, silence, go. You know, that wouldn't be helpful. That would be like, So what we do is we just have guided experiences along the way, ways to breathe and slow down. The retreat starts very communal. We're doing this together. We're carrying each other. And then it's only halfway through the retreat, middle of the second day, where we give everyone a 2 to 3 hour chunk of silence space where you can go off, you can go find a tree, sit under it. You can, a lot of people said, I'm going to take a nap. And that was the most loving thing I can do for these tired bones.
Yes.
Is to say, not going back on Instagram. I'm going to my bed.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so that time is critical, but we really want to guide people there in a responsible way.
So I teach yoga, and there's a temptation. The silence can be, it's a really important part of the practice.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need savasana. It's like there's a rhythm. It's like we worked for this, and now we have this rhythm and now there's the built-in silence. But you can it's a temptation to strong arm what it is you want people to leave with, a little bit like Sister Joanne, like you were just saying. She could have done this and that wouldn't have been effective. So you have to make room. But one of the things that I say is similar to what you're saying is when I'm leading my class, I tell them that I have 3 favorite things that can happen in class. And one of them is when people sing along, because I do Christian yoga. So it's set to praise and worship. So I love when people sing, even if it's just to themselves. But then the other thing is I love if I'm calling out something and you do something that your body needs that's not what I said. Yeah. I'm like, yes, that's what I want for you. Yes. So if I have us in something and you're in child's pose, I feel like I have done my work. And then the other thing is if people fall asleep. I'm like, if you are comfortable and relaxed enough to fall asleep, yes.
Absolutely. I think it was Brennan Manning who wrote, if you ever fall asleep during prayer, don't kick yourself. Yeah. How does a parent feel when the kid trusts them enough to fall asleep on their chest? What a gracious.
I love it. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Can I flip the conversation real quick?
Sure.
I have only been to yoga one time.
Okay.
And it's been on my list for like 8 years of something I want to get into. But I'm intimidated. Okay. I can't stretch, so I'm really inflexible, but I'm worried I'm going to spend the whole time in there not knowing what to do, falling down. Okay. I wonder if some people who would love to come to this retreat, who know they need it, but feel like, I don't know about contemplative practices. Right. I don't know how to do this. I'm scared. I'm not going to know when to sit, when to stand, that whole thing. How would you advise me as a yoga teacher who teaches clueless people like Aaron graciously and invites people like me into your practice? How would you speak to me and us, our team, inviting people into a retreat like this?
Yeah. There's no wrong way to have a body. And so if you have a body and if you can breathe and connect some movement to your breath, I promise you that it will be transformative. Wow. It doesn't matter. There is no such thing as perfection. That's why we call it a practice, because we are practicing. And so there is no expectation of, and I think that it's normal and it's natural to look at pictures of people who make their living doing this kind of thing and think, well, I'm not a pretzel. That's never going to happen. It doesn't have to. That's not what yoga is. It's connecting movement and breath. It's feeling a sensation of stretch. And we are all wired together so differently that that sensation of stretch is going to happen at a different place for everybody. And your body is welcome here. And we live such disconnected lives. We know that our whole human self, to be fully human, is this glorious mix of mind and body and spirit. And we compartmentalize them because we're so uncomfortable with one or the other. They never come into harmony at the same time. And I am certain that it's what God intended. And so we have these very complicated relationships with our bodies, so much so that it makes us have a complicated relationship with the person who inhabits it. And so if we could just bring everything together into heart, it is no accident that people leave a yoga class going, wow, we never want to go. We're constantly avoiding the things that are complicated for us. We never want to go. And every single time, no one walks out of a good yoga class where an instructor has celebrated your body and said, that was a waste of time. Ever. You leave floating, because everything has come together in harmony. So, I think that the setup is a lot of permission. I am so glad you're just here. You're here. And so there's a lot of permission. There's a lot of celebration. There are a couple of phrases that I feel really set an atmosphere. And one of them is, and gosh, I could go on forever, but there's a great reclaiming of your body. And so I will tell everyone to draw an imaginary circle around your body. This is your space. Nothing in yoga happens without your permission. And, one of just a big, arms over your head and pointing your toes, take up all your space, just that invitation to be fully yourself. So, I had this thought, Aaron, and it reminded me so much of what you're doing, but I think that we have a backwards way of thinking that our transformation is what's going to determine God's benevolence. When really it is God's benevolence that is going to affect that's what's going to cause our transformation.
Wow.
And so there is something really powerful about laying there loved under the tender gaze of a father who loves you just as you are. And you can get rid of the pesky thought that tells you you ought to be somebody different. And so that's what yoga is for me. That's the atmosphere that I try to create. So thank you. That's sweet of you.
Listen,
Aaron is silently fist pumping. Thank you. It's so nice.
No matter what we talk about for the next few minutes, that was the best part of this conversation.
Oh, stop.
I'm telling you, that was so moving
Aaron.
for me. Both when I think about...
You just became a yogi, I think. I think that's what just happened.
Seriously. Both when I think about myself in connection with my body, like if I'm at some point going to enter into something that scares me. And when I think about these retreats and when I think about my work leading spiritual practices and all this, I'm going to listen to that again. So
that's really sweet.
Thank
you so much, Aaron. I feel very loved by you. Thank you. Okay. So here, listen, we live in a society. We can kind of close on this before we promote the heck out of this, but we live in a society that really squashes curiosity.
Yeah.
Would you mind taking a moment to unpack why? I feel like the things that we know can change at any moment, and can you tell us why that's okay?
That things change?
Yeah, that things the things that we know, or the things that we think we know, those things can change at any moment.
That's right.
Can you help set us up to maybe come at that a little more calmly? I don't know. I feel like that's going to be some important groundwork to showing up hopeful, is that because I feel indignant right now. I'm going to be honest. I feel so indignant about the ways that people are disappointing me, and so I know that I have work to do in softening. And I feel like the answer is probably curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, maybe I would start here. In my life experience, when I thought I knew something, the crumbling of that was as terrifying as it gets. You feel like your whole world, what you've built, your foundation is just crumbling and falling apart. However, when I look back, I would say every time one of those major things crumbled, something bigger emerged in its place.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So I've never had some sort of worldview or belief that when it fell, it was replaced by something smaller.
Oh, my goodness.
Always been bigger.
Thank you so much. That's so good.
Yeah. So that's when I
forget? Gosh, I forget.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Well, we don't. A lot of times we miss out because the pain of it crumbling really is excruciating.
Yeah.
And so we're not short term. We're smart to avoid that because it hurts and it's scary and it's disillusioning. But it's why my friends who are deconstructing or are losing faith in ways, I often, especially if we're friends, because I never want to minimize the pain, but if we're friends, I often will smile and say, I'm so excited for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there is something that is, my kid, just a couple years ago, my youngest kid was losing his baby teeth. well, what is that making space for?
Yeah.
Bigger
Yeah.
adult teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing, but it's scary when your teeth are falling out, you know? So I think there is, I am like deeply certain about less now than I've ever been, especially in terms of the details. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of my bedrock certainties is that the big story is really good.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so good. That's
Yeah.
such a great way to finish.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
They called it good news for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just because the American container for it has corroded to a point where it doesn't seem like good news very often, that doesn't change what the story was and actually is.
Amen.
And so we have got to dig down, dig back, and find that story. Because, I mean, blessed are the poor, blessed are the merciful, blessed are the pure in heart, blessed are the peacemakers. That's the story. That's what we're being invited into. And it's the only hope for our world. Yeah. But we've got some work to do to it's almost like it's mummified inside some things that probably need to be broken open.
Yeah. Okay, let's promote. When, where, what are the things that you're most excited about happening in that space? Like, so let's start with the cities.
Yeah. Well, we're doing 3 retreats, January 23rd through 25th in Houston.
Come on, guys.
You are going to be there.
I'm going to be there.
which it makes me so excited. I'm so glad you're going to be there. So Houston in January. And then we're going to be back in New York City, right here at General Theological Seminary, first 3 days of May 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, spring in Manhattan is glorious. Yeah. So now I hope you know, no one is forbidden to come to more than one. So I'm just saying, if you're looking for something to do first week of May. And then the last one is going to be the end of August. And that one's going to be in the Chicago area at Bellarmine Retreat Center, which is my spiritual director, Jesuit priest. That's where he lives and does his work. So he's going to be a large part of leading that retreat in the Chicago area in August. So all the details, pastorspriestsandguides.com.
Yes.
And then I would say even more, I mean, that's where the like real details are, but our Instagram page, Pastors, Priests, and Guys, we're just sharing tons of stuff and interviews and comments and ideas. And we're trying to give like a taste of what this invitation is. So.
Got it. Yeah. Awesome.
And, it says pastors, priests, and guides, but that's expansive. We had a lot of spiritual directors. I mean, it's basically anyone who is actively serving a spiritual community.
Right.
You are welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I know that there's no quick fixes. I know that there's no, magic wands or sudden transformations, but we can choose to reach for hope. We can choose to do that. And you show us a way to live, Aaron, where resolve is strengthened by life's trials instead of crushed by them. Yeah, and I'm just really, really grateful because you take the good and the bad and the blessed and the bruised and the remarkable and the redeemed, and you use that, all of it. You use every single bit of it to not only teach yourself lessons, but then, like I said in the beginning, like bring others along. And I just am really, really grateful for your work. I'm grateful for the people that you've surrounded yourself with. Guys, please go follow these accounts. Please consider coming. I will be in Houston. Yes. I am grateful for you, Aaron. I think that people are going to really attach to this conversation as well, because in a lot of ways, we're just all in the same place and need this so badly.
Yes. Yeah. Man, thank you so much for inviting me back. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. This was great.
We did it.
Yes. Will there be a 3?
Yes.
We can process the retreat after. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
That's right. All right. Blessings.
Friends, I adore Be a Heart Design. Go ahead and look them up now while you listen and hit follow. Be a Heart Design is committed to creating and experiencing beauty. They create products that walk us through the joys and sorrows of life: swaddle blankets, wooden puzzles, laptop sleeves, lunch boxes, digital planners, and my very favorite paper planner, This thing does not just keep me organized, but it also keeps me rooted in prayer. Everything that's created is designed to reflect God's goodness. Go to Be a Heart Design on Instagram and beaheart.com to check out the many gifts for special occasions. Christmas is just around the corner. Or just pick something up to let someone know that you're thinking of them, or go pick up something for yourself. You'll love it. Good morning, Beefy.
Hi, Beefy Beef. I have a question.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Did we ever go to church camp together?
Surely. I mean, from age 9 on, you would, yeah.
But why do I have no recollection?
I don't know. I don't either. It must have been really, really lame if neither one of us can recollect it at all. No memory.
It was either completely unremarkable or so remarkable that we blacked it out. One or the other.
Yes. Whatever the case, we need new experiences, which is why, Beef, you're going with me to pastors, priests, and guides in January. I'm so excited.
Oh, clearly. I need it so bad. I have been, as you know, on an intense level of autopilot lately.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, so I think autopilot came up a little bit in our conversation. I think, and I wanted to say this, I'm not sure if I did, I can't remember, but I was thinking about it, and it's like, as far as autopilot goes, there is always reasons to keep it up. Like there is never going to be a good enough reason to stop to like actually do it unless it breaks. Oh, I did say that. Unless something breaks. It's like there is so much to do.
For sure. I mean, between work and home, there's a million people to answer to, a million tasks at varying levels of completion. And if I were to wait for it to all be taken care of before I retreated, that time would never come.
That's right. Exactly. It would never happen. And I feel like this is the mercy of God because he just knows, hey, y'all are going to suck at this. Like y'all are going to be so bad at this. You're going to double book. You're going to spread yourselves way too thin. And it's like, he says, so I have prescribed a Sabbath for you people. You know, it's like, here I am on, you know, a roll with creation, you know, really getting going at day 6. But watch this. I'm going to stop day 7 so that y'all can see this, so that I can model it for you because you need it so bad.
Yep. A prescribed stop, right? It's good.
Yes. It's good. Yeah.
Because I can never really find a good enough reason to do something that feels like a self-indulgence, right? Even something that I would love, like a retreat with my beef in our hometown.
Oh, I see. You're gonna make me wear a onesie, aren't you? I see where this is going.
Probably. But I mean, really,
I love it.
It's like I feel guilty leaving tasks incomplete.
Yeah, that is 100% why God commanded it. It's a commandment, Beef. You're a rule follower. It's a commandment. He is commanding you to go to a retreat with me.
Yeah. And to do something good for me, right? I feel guilty even though I need it so bad. Yes.
Well, commandment, you're going to retreat and we're going to have a great time and it's going to be great.
So I think he's commanding you to wear a onesie.
Fine. I'll do it. You know, here's the thing is that as far as like if that feels like an indulgence, I feel like that's always an enemy's way of saying, of kind of getting in the way of something good that we need.
Well, I loved Aaron's description of the retreat, right? I know he's putting together amazing people, but I love how like thoughtful, but hands-off he is, if that makes sense. He seems like really committed to everyone having their own experience. And there's something about that approach that like already makes me feel welcome.
Totally. Yeah, me too. I get that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And I know it's going to be so good for my whole family because it's going to be good for me, right? Like it wasn't separate from Jesus's love of his people, like his people, his disciples. It wasn't separate of his love for them. But it was because of his love for them that he sometimes needed to be away from them. Right. Wow.
Yeah. That's really good. The whole self-care component, you know, we talked about like putting your mask on first. Yes. All of that. That's really, really good. You know, thinking about Jesus's people and his disciples, they were always like, wait, where'd he go? You know, right? He found a cave. He like slipped up the mountain again. Where'd he go? Sneaky Jesus.
And I bet when he went, he was in a
onesie. All right, Beef. See you there. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. A very special thank you to all guests and sponsors. A really special thank you to Taylor Schroll for mixing and editing. For more content, you can head over to Instagram at Allison M. Sully and TikTok at Sullivan Family TikTok. You can also check out Forte Catholic and subscribe there, where you have a 25% chance of hearing me co-host. I am so grateful for all of the love and support that we offer each other here.
Today's show was a production of Allison Sullivan in conjunction with the Forte Catholic Podcast Network. For more great Catholic podcasts, head on over to fortecatholic.com/podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.